York sewage solution.
Welcome. Good to have you with us, Mr. Rabeau.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. I'm here to give you an update on the Upper York Sewage Solutions project. I've been here a few times over the last few years, so hopefully I'll give you some new information today, and some information will stand. My intent is to kind of give a general overview of the project to start, where we're at in terms of overall status, and then I'll provide a little bit of information on the IEA and where we're at. We've encountered a bit of a delay, and I want to explain that delay to you today so that you understand going forward in terms of timing for approval. Over the last 3 years, I think I've shown you this graphic probably 5 times, and unfortunately that red square has not moved. As of today, we still have our file with the ministry for approval. That was submitted back in July of 2014, and today we still stand waiting for an approval from our minister and cabinet on the IEA so that we can actually move forward with the construction components of this project. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit later in the presentation. I'm just going to talk about some of the design work we're doing right now, because as committed to committee, regional committee and council and this council, we are advancing all components of our design, property acquisition, all investigative work to get to a point where it's ready for construction. Not to say that we've changed the 2024 completion date of the water reclamation facility and the conveyance systems. But today we've advanced all our design components. We're at a 90% level for the new plant that'll go up on Second Concession north of Queensville Side Road. We're moving forward with all the offset program in terms of the stormwater management. It's not quite as advanced as the plant itself, but we're at about a 30 to 40% design level there. And the York-Durham sewage system, which is essentially the force main that runs through Newmarket, we're at about a 90% level there. And that'll be the first component of construction for this project once approved by the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. So right now we have ongoing investigations. A lot of it's focused in Newmarket right now because of that force main sewer twinning through Newmarket. We're doing ground investigations and just confirming our alignment for construction. We are doing work up in East Gwillimbury right now. We do not have full acquisition of the property that the plant is going on. We're still in negotiations with the landowner for that. We have initiated an expropriation process. However, we are trying to reach an amicable deal with the landowner. We have done some investigations on the property in terms of deep pile foundations that the structure will sit on. And that investigation is ongoing. And as we get acquisition of the property, it'll get more intense moving forward. That's just a rendering of the facility. Mr. Atkins was up here earlier showing renderings of their facilities before construction and then the post result. So hopefully, sooner than later, we'll be able to see some result in this property. This is looking easterly from Second Concession at the plant, which will be there, and it does try to provide an integration with the environment in a future, something that we can look at and be proud of from a wastewater facility. So moving on to the IEA. As I stated earlier, we submitted the IEA in July of 2014. It took us over a year and a half to get the ministry to go back and forth with their comments and their consultation to get them to file their government review. An IEA is a little bit different than a class environmental assessment because the ministry does take a more involved role in terms of the review process. They govern the process and do make the final approval through the minister and cabinet. So it's a little bit different than a class environmental assessment and quite a bit more involved. So back in January of 2016, they filed their government review. No major issues were flagged. They had their comments, their consultation process. They were in support of the IEA in terms of the outcomes that were provided. And then it went into kind of the final public consultation period for their government review. And since then, we've not been able to achieve an approval to today. Late in 2016, correspondence back and forth, we were under the understanding that the minister was going to be reviewing the file through December 2016, and we'd be looking at a cabinet approval in January of this year. Unfortunately, late in December, we received notice that the ministry was reviewing their Crown duty to consult. And as I explained that they're involved in this process, they actually have a duty to consult within their own mandate of this project. So it's nothing to do with what the region's done. We have submitted our file. They have told us that we've achieved all comments and we're ready to move forward. They now have to meet their duty to consult. And upon their internal review, they weren't ready yet. So they said, look, this is going to get delayed beyond January 2017 and into 2017. And right now, they're reviewing internally to try and understand just how long that's going to be. We've been corresponding with them to say that, look, this is unacceptable. It's been nearly 3 years that we've submitted this IEA. In fact, our mayors and East Gwillimbury Mayor, Aurora Mayor, and Newmarket Mayor, along with our chairman, have submitted correspondence to the ministry to say, look, we need an approval. There's serious components in terms of growth in York Region, as well as twinning the sewer in Newmarket, that are critical for moving forward. So we implore you to move forward with this file, and that's some of the correspondence that's gone into the ministry to date. So just a little bit of an idea on timelines. This IEA is starting to get on the critical path of this project. We've communicated a 2024 completion for the WRC, but if the IEA approval starts moving into 2018, it could cause some impact to that 2024 timeline. I think back originally when the IEA was filed, we anticipated an approval by early 2016. If it's not achieved by early 2018, that's a 2-year gap that we're starting to suffer. And even any opportunity of advancing the project, as we've discussed historically, is going to be in jeopardy. So that 2024 timeline will become very real, and holding that will become tough. So it's imperative that we get this approval in 2017 to keep on our schedule. Just lastly, an element in terms of dealing with East Gwillimbury staff. We've started what we call a working together committee, and we've had our first meeting at the staff level to start talking about the project. What this is intended to do is just provide a solid integration point with the project team and local stakeholders in terms of the project moving forward. So your staff are engaged and involved and understand what's happening. As we go through designs, tendering processes, and into construction, everyone's aware of what's happening. There's an avenue to communicate information back to this council and committee over and above the presentations that we come and do, and just making sure that the public is aware of everything that's happening and construction advancement. So that's a committee we intend to carry on and meet more frequently as we get closer to construction. So that concludes my presentation for this morning. If you wanted to ask any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Questions? Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. Rabot, I again wanted to thank you. A few months ago, Mr. Rabot and I presented to a group of grade 8 or grade 9 students about water issues in our region. And it was the school had outreached to me and asked me to present, and I engaged and Mr. Rabot. He did a great job there. I wanted to acknowledge him publicly for his efforts. I think it was his day off even that he did it. So. Through you, I did have some questions about this, the design. In fact, I think this may be one of the first times we've seen some of these proposals here. And one of the things that jumped out at me was the words right in the center there. It says conventional treatment plant, and I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about that. Just below the ridge, it says conventional treatment plant. Those rectangles, sort of in the center, upper center of the slide. Can you tell me how that integrates in with this? So this was cutting edge technology, and I'm just wondering about what that means there.
Absolutely.
It's conventional.
So what that's pointing out is those buildings in this image, the buildings where it says conventional treatment, that's where the conventional treatment will be housed. For York Region and most municipalities, conventional treatment is usually secondary treatment. So you have your primary treatment and then your secondary treatment. And that achieves kind of the effluent criteria that's required by the ministry in terms of water quality objectives. So secondary treatment usually achieves that. So that houses the conventional treatment, which will achieve the secondary treatment. You'll see to the far left, there's a building called Advanced Treatment Building. So that's when it gets into the membrane filtration and the reverse osmosis and the UV disinfection. So it's just pointing out for anyone looking at the graphics the different components of this facility. So it's got conventional treatment. We're meeting those requirements. Over and above that, you have the membrane filtration. You have the reverse osmosis going forward. So that's the additional tertiary and quaternary treatment is what we call it, over and above conventional.
So through you, Madam Mayor, part of this process, when it was presented to us, we were hesitantly supportive, I guess is the best way of putting it, because it was cutting-edge, innovative technology. You're now at 90% design. Would you still say that that's the case?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Further, there's an interim silviculture. And my understanding of the word silviculture is that's trees, but that looks like it's not trees. Can you speak a little bit more about that for me, please?
Where are we looking here?
Just to the right of conventional treatment plant?
Oh, just to the south here.
Yeah, no, that would be southwest there, thank you.
So that will be, and what the intent is so that'll be plantings to begin with. I believe over time, what we intend on doing is introducing a reuse program. Now, with the province, there's no regulatory framework for water reuse in the province. What we'd like to do in the future is start piloting some water reuse programs. So that's where you're kind of using the rich nutrient water to inform non-consumables. So whether it's sod farms or other farms for growth. So on the site in the future, we could pilot some areas here on the plant to try them out. That's why it says interim. What it'll be for the future, that's not quite decided as of yet. As we work with the province to introduce some of these frameworks, we will get the opportunity to pilot some reuse programs, and then we'd like to go outside the plant and apply some of these programs and make it a broader solution, an integrated one water approach for the area. I think it's a critical part of this project. I mean, RO use is high energy. It's very clean water that's coming out of there, but keep in mind you're removing a lot of good nutrients that are useful. So that's an idea. If you can apply some water reuse before going to that level of treatment, we'd like to try and address that over time, hence the word interim there.
And that was part of the initial vision for this project, was that there would be customers actually who would be purchasing that
Absolutely.
high quality product from you. So, and I know that had proven a bit of a challenge for you through this process, and I'm happy to see that it's still on the table.
Absolutely.
If only for the future. Thank you.
Councillor Young.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just looking at the site. I know previous renderings and discussions, most of the site is within a facility or under a roof or something of that nature. Is that still the case, especially when you look at as it goes through the process?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the answer to that is not the entire facility will be under roofing. I mean, there will be
open.
Likely our aeration tanks in the conventional treatment will be open. That's where you introduce oxygen into the process you're feeding the bugs to essentially consume some of the bacteria and elements of the sewage. So you need a proper aeration to do that. So it will be aerated with the proper odor control facilities to manage odor.
Was there ever a time when that was considered to be covered up, or is that always a portion of the project that was to be open?
That's a good question. I don't think it's ever been intended to be enclosed. I don't think you can have it enclosed in any sort of conventional plant. I'd have to get back to you on that in terms of the intent.
Yeah.
So I can confirm back exactly what we are doing, what is covered, what's uncovered, and historically how that's played out. But I don't think from a technical solution it's possible to enclose your aeration system.
I think we all would appreciate that information, because when you look at this, I see a stormwater pond and constructed wetlands, but when you look at the other processing parts, it kind of looks like it could be part of a building, or it doesn't show it as clearly as maybe we'd like to see it. I want to make sure that everything is specified, not only for us, but also for the residents that will be living in this area.
Absolutely. I think I'm probably shooting myself in the foot here by having this picture up here, because it is an architectural rendering. Architects and engineers don't always get along in terms of what's up there and what's technically feasible.
No.
So it is a rendering.
It's what it looks like at the end of the day that's important.
Absolutely.
Okay. If I may further this, twinning of the system through Newmarket. Can you walk through that? What does that entail?
Through you, Madam Mayor, what's in Newmarket right now? At the north end of Newmarket, there is the Newmarket Sewage Pumping Station. In fact, that's everything that's been built on second concession, all the pumping stations that are built there right now that are taking flow, that gets pumped to second concession and drains down to, and it gets pumped to the Newmarket Sewage Pumping Station. That'll currently get pumped through Newmarket, down into Aurora, and then pumped down through our, what we call the York-Durham sewage system, down to our plant in Duffin Creek.
Okay.
Now, so right now, East Gwillimbury South, everything's going down to our plant in Durham, the Duffin Creek plant. Now, with the WRC coming on in the future, flows will start to go to the plant from East Gwillimbury and small portions of Newmarket. So what's in Newmarket right now, between that pumping station and the pumping station in Aurora, is a single force main. Mm-hmm. It's called a force main because it's under pressure, but it's a sewer that's you're pushing sewage through, and it's a single line. It's a very large pumping station, and it's the largest pumping station in York region with a single force main. Issues with a single force main, and it's tough to get in and clean it. There's no redundancy. If there's ever an issue, there's not another line to pump to. So it's not best practice to have a single force main. So twinning this force main is critical to provide that redundancy. It'll let us get into the existing force main, close it down for a little bit, clean it out, have a look at condition, refurbish it as needed, and then move to kind of a dual process in terms of those two force mains.
And that's coming from Aurora north?
No, it's going Newmarket south
Newmarket
to
south,
Aurora,
okay.
yes.
Okay, to Aurora.
To Aurora, yeah. Aurora can't pump to the force main.
Yeah.
Only Newmarket can pump to the
Can
force
pump
main.
the
yeah.
force main. And there's no intention of having it switched around where we could see potentially sewage from Aurora pump north to be facilitated through this facility?
No, it's not technically feasible. The outlet's north of the Aurora
Yeah.
pumping station to a sewer, and it drains into the Aurora sewer, yes. There's no intent to start bringing flows north to the WRC.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any other questions this time. You have one more. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. Rabot, the delays with respect to your approval with the ministry, putting at risk the delivery of the project for 2024, does that also put at risk the decommissioning of the lagoons in Holland Landing? Because it's my understanding that we've been continuing to advocate for decommissioning those lagoons sooner rather than later, and I'm wondering how that affects the timeline.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and it's a good question, and I think the unfortunate answer is, because I know there's a significant intent to decommission these lagoons, is the decommissioning of the lagoons is directly tied to the commissioning of the WRC. So it's the transition of that license that we've tied in terms of this project and achieving the requirements of the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan. So it's required to stay in commission, or they're required to stay in commission until the new facility is up and running, and then that'll be transferred over and we'll decommission the lagoon. So right now it is tied to that completion date, and if it did get pushed to 25 or later, it could drag that decommissioning out.
Madam Mayor, if I may, just a thought that as part of that messaging to the ministry that suggests that there's additional redundancies that need to be built with the twinning of the force main, but also drawing to the attention of the ministry that there is an antiquated system being used that is not ideal and needs to be taken offline sooner rather than later, and that there are environmental impacts for continuing to use that facility. So I'm hoping that could also be included in the messaging. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Roy DeClemente. I know from the region perspective that continues to be a message that goes to the ministry, and if there's any opportunity to change that from having it one connected to the other, I know that the region has worked tirelessly to see if that can happen. So we're certainly very conscious of the concerns of all of East Gwillimbury, but particularly the residents that's homes are being used with that right now. So we'll just keep moving that along. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Taking into consideration that potentially we could see the commissioning of this plant come later than 2024, how does that affect us? And maybe that's a question I address to or direct to our staff to address. We undertake growth management studies. We are talking about getting into another official plan review. With that official plan review comes our transportation and active transportation plans and new models. It also looks at facilities. How do we, like, are we going to go through a process right now that's going to get us an updated plan, which basically we could be already, past the point of being useful if we're not going to see growth or further growth in East Gwillimbury until, 2026, 2028, 2030? Where are we positioning ourselves as it relates to the information that we're getting right now?
Mr. Webster?
Through the mayor, I think that's a very good question as well. I have talked to members of council about this matter, and senior management are currently working on this matter. The one thing we know for certain is we have 7,000 units of confirmed growth through the York Third sewage system, which are currently being managed. We have a growth management workshop planned for council on our April special council session. I'll ask the clerk to refresh the date. I think it would be well advised that we're going to provide at that time an update on how the 7,000 units are being managed and handled. And part of our approach at this point is our current growth management master plans are currently undertaken in the years 2009 and 10. And we would be much further along with growth, and the Upper York plant would be much further along. And so I think we are developing strategies from a financial perspective that will allow us to provide infrastructure and a sustainable tax structure for our residents for a community that's our existing community plus 7,000 units. And then I think we are going to be as well outlining some strategies we undertake for how we move beyond that once we get confirmation of the Upper York. The region is moving along, and if you put, Mr. Rabeau, if you could put the one slide back up about what the works are you're currently undertaking, everything is moving along in accordance with the schedule and the design and all those other elements. The key point being we could have a gap in the growth, and until the Upper York is actually tendered, that would be confirmation on many things that this council is looking for, and our plans will reflect how we can incorporate the uncertainty of that into our process as we move forward. So we'll do our best to, in the growth management workshop, to bring all those matters to the agenda.
Councillor Young?
Thank you. Again, it does. It puts us on a lot different footing than we previously thought we were under prior to this potential holdup. Again, we were planning of going beyond a community of 45,000 people, and I think we're trying to base our infrastructure and our service needs based on that. But right now, if we don't get any movement from the ministry, we could be sitting, at least for a short period of time, hopefully that's all it is, but there will be a period of time that we potentially could be sitting as a community of 45,000 for an unspecified time, and that's what kind of concerns me. And I think these are issues that we had back, in the early 2000s, that back when we thought the system was going to be based from the south as opposed to a sewage treatment plant in the north. We saw the gap. We went to the region with this concern because we didn't want the municipality to be put in a position where we experienced an influx of growth, provided service and facilities for this, and then stopped. And right now, I don't see that definitive answer that, well, don't worry about that. We're gonna keep moving forward. It'll be just in time. And I don't know if we're gonna hit that point. As it relates to the province holding this process up, they're putting us all, and I agree with your comments, they're putting us all in a very interesting position, not only East Gwillimbury, but Newmarket and Aurora, with the other infrastructure needs that you have. And it makes it very difficult to become a community where you can live, work, play, raise a family, and learn, when right now all we're going to be is just one big bedroom community, because we can't even get, from the region standpoint, support to put servicing into our employment lands, to at least provide an opportunity for people to at least work here too. So it's a bit of a pickle. Thank you.
It is. Absolutely it is. And it's the unknown that, unfortunately, it's the layers of approvals. We've known for quite some time where we were going, and thought that we had knowledge about where the region as partners with us for in our wastewater we're going as well, and it's another layer. I know that staff are working very hard to try and solve this problem, and the most recent letter that's been sent to the ministry, we're hoping is going to make a difference as well. But we, unfortunately, in some cases, it's out of the hands of the local government once again. So we work with what we have, and we try to make a difference with those that we can't, to see if we can make some changes with that. So it's very trying for a municipality that's been waiting for 35 years to grow, with lands that were approved 25 years ago that now are just starting to grow, and a community that is poised. So, Mr. Webster?
Final thing I did want to add, and the treasurer did remind me, is we're one of the few municipalities in Ontario that does not have debt at this point in time. And one of the key elements that the staff team, this isn't breaking news to us, what Mr. Rabot is bringing forward today. We're aware that there could be a gap in our growth, and we've reflected that in many things. Our hiring patterns, we've contracted out a lot of our work at this point, and it's much easier to expand and contract a workforce that's not full-time. And as well, with regards to our capital facilities, and the two most notable being the operations center, where we're replating an outdated operations center, doesn't meet the current health and safety or accessibility standards. And with respect to the health and active living facility, we're looking at builds for those facilities that would be modest, they would be scalable, and most importantly, would not require the issuance of debt. And why I bring that up is if you issue debt, you're mortgaging and you're basing your payments on coming from future growth. And until we have confirmation that future growth is going to be there, we will be bringing forward programs for council that essentially we're going to build what we can afford to build with what's in the bank.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Just add to that, and operate and be able to replace.
Yeah.
That's absolutely correct.
Yep. Okay, I think we've, there are no other questions. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Roy DiClemente. Be it resolved that the York Region presentation to committee providing an update regarding the Upper York sewage solution be received. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Mr. Rabot. Appreciate that very much. We always learn a lot from the region coming in and